welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Hey, y'all, I ain't gonna lie. I took a vacation last week, and I got kissed by the sun, and I'm feeling, you know what? I feel like I look good when the sun kisses me. My skin gets a little bit more even. I got a little vitamin D, but more importantly, I have been recharged because y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. Happy Pride Month. Yes. Happy Pride Month. Listen, this is where all the rainbows and all the queers and all the lesbians and all the gay guys, all the everybody, all the transgender, bisexual, pansexuals, asexuals express our pride in existing. See, I know a lot of straight folks be in their feelings about, well, we ain't ever seen no straight Pride Month. That's because people weren't actually tying you to, posts and killing you because of who you love. And see, we are standing in solidarity and saying, nah, we're not finna do that no more. We're not going to get beat down anymore. And we're not going to allow laws to dictate how we exist in the world. But unfortunately, there are some people who feel like our lives shouldn't be or not as equal as someone else's life. So what's going on, Dana Black? Yes, what's happening? Well, first of all, the Star Press reports, according to the USA Today, Out Leadership has conducted the LGBTQ plus Business Climate Index for 6 consecutive years, and all 50 states saw a drop in averages in the past 2. By looking at the current treatment of LGBTQ plus people, such as governance policies and prevailing community attitudes, the organization was able to identify the best and worst spots for the gay and transgender community. Here's what we know. Indiana is considered of high risk for those in the LGBTQ plus community, along with Kentucky. Ohio was a slightly lower risk. In the notable category, Illinois was labeled no risk, and Michigan was a low risk. Over the past few years, Indiana legislators have unleashed an onslaught of laws targeting LGBTQ plus rights in the state. The Indiana General Assembly filed nearly 24 anti-LGBTQ plus bills in 2023 alone. 4 went into law, enacting bans on gender transitions for minors, student pronoun changes, and gender-affirming surgery in prison, as well as protecting religious conversion therapy. Likewise, a couple of bills related to LGBTQ plus issues were introduced during the 2024 legislative session, but were never passed. A 2022 law banned transgender girls from playing on girls' sports teams, and while Governor Holcomb signed a bill giving Indiana hate crimes protections in 2019, the law notably does not include protections for gender or gender identity. Back in 2015, Indiana passed a state version of the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, allowing corporations and individuals to assert religious right, and in which religious objectors could be used to refuse service to same-sex couples. The then disgraced and threatened to be hung Governor Mike Pence eventually amended the law, and thanks to pushback from Indiana-based businesses, clarifying that businesses could not refuse services. Listen, it is what it is. We know that we are under attack. We know that there are people in our General Assembly right now who are working to craft new and better laws to disenfranchise and silence tax-paying citizens of the state of Indiana because of who they love. See, they never once said, after we write these really horrible bills about distinguishing whether or not you can identify yourself the way you want to identify yourself, that they were going to give you a tax break. Never once did the General Assembly say, we are no longer going to hold you responsible for the duties of a citizen of Indiana, but we are going to definitely discriminate against you. What I want you guys to do and take away from this, I'm having multiple calls of action on this Pride Month, the first turn left of Pride Month. There's a link in the chat for the Indiana Stonewall Democrats. I want you to click that link and donate. In fact, become a monthly contributor to Indiana Stonewall Democrats so that we can support the candidates who support us. You may not know who all the candidates are who are good and who should be who is supporting our community, who you should support. But trust me, we have a serious vetting process. They go through this vetting process. And if these candidates meet the requirements, we will financially give them money and support these candidates. So you may not have to know who all the candidates are that are looking out for our community. That's why we're here. So click that link, become a huge one-time donor, or if you can't do a big donation, consider doing a monthly recurring donor so that we can support the candidates who are supporting our community, because we have an AG race this year, y'all. We have an AG race. We have two amazing women, Beth White and Destiny Wells, who are vying for the Democratic nomination to run against the awful, horrible Tyra Keita. The Indianapolis Business Journal reports Indiana joins 14 states in a lawsuit challenging federal protections for transgender care. Indiana Attorney General Tyra Keita has joined legal chiefs from 14 other states in filing a lawsuit that challenges a new rule from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that aims to protect gay and transgender people from health care discrimination. Conservative opponents of the rule have argued the policy could force doctors to perform gender transition surgeries and other procedures that they oppose on religious grounds. First of all, I'm going to pause right there. First of all, just can't know any doctor, not just any surgeon, can give gender transition surgeries. This is a specialty. It's like not any doctor can go and give a heart transplant. So the idea that someone who is trained to do gender reassignment surgery would all of a sudden have religious objections to it, why do they spend all the money getting the education to do it? So first of all, that's the first flaw in this conversation. And they go on railing about the Biden administration will stop at nothing to impose its radical transgender ideology on Hoosiers and all Americans. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not even going to read the rest of that, because the bottom line is Tyra Keita wrote this. Tyra Keita is the guy that is signing up with 14 other states to oppose this healthcare measure to make sure that gay and transgender people and lesbians and bisexuals are not being treated differently when we go see a physician. I don't understand why that would be a problem. Is it a problem to say when I go see a doctor, you treat me like anybody else? I'm a human like everybody else. Why shouldn't I be treated like everybody else? But these clowns will stop at nothing, in his words, to make sure that we tax-paying citizens don't receive the equal treatment that we deserve. Now, mind you, this is the same clown who was supposed to be our state's leading law enforcement officer is on all the socials going nuts that he got an endorsement from a convicted felon. I need y'all to rationalize this in my brain. The leading law enforcement officer in our state is super stoked that a convicted felon and a threat to democracy endorsed him. But he's not alone. He's not alone. That guy, and I'm trying to be nice because I have guests on my show, that guy, Mike Braun, is also running around talking about, you look at me. I got a felon endorsing me. A felon, y'all. A felon. Convicted by a jury of his Manhattan peers. These weren't people from they weren't LA people. They weren't from Brooklyn or the Bronx. They were from Manhattan. And they saw the evidence and said, oh, this is cutting shit. This is shutting. Case closed. It's done. Case closed. He guilty. But the people who want to run our state, the people who want to be the executive officer, the CEO of our state, is endorsed by someone who has been convicted and found liable in a civil case for fraud. The new CEO, the person who wants to be the CEO of Indiana, is happy that he got endorsed by someone who was found guilty of fraud. And the leading law enforcement officer of the state is excited about getting an endorsement from a convicted felon. Do these sound like the people that should be leading our state? I'm going to answer for you. No, you wouldn't even listen to me on Turn Left if I was a convicted felon or found liable for fraud. We're not even going to talk about how the leading law enforcement officer is also happy to be endorsed by someone who was found guilty of rape. Rape. sexual assaulting another person. This is who he worships. This is who he wants. This is who Mike Braun wants. Guys, you know what? One thing about the attorney general's race and the governor's race, they're not gerrymandered. That means all we have to do is show up. You don't worry about what district you're in. You just show up. If you're in a district and there's only 8,000 voters and only 1,000 of you are Democrats, vote anyway. Because it would all add up. Because see, I'm going to get my 600,000 voters in Marion County. Oh, God, we're going to do better than 12%. I promise you. We're going to get up to at least 50%. And that can make a huge difference. Lake County, we're going to turn Lake County out. All we need you to do, guys, for Attorney General and the governor of our state is to show up and vote, because these seats are not gerrymandered. If all of us show up, we can prevent this type of authoritarianism praise, because these guys want us to have an authoritarian clown as president of the United States. And they will lead our state in exactly the same way the clown wants to lead our state. Don't get it twisted and don't get it confused. These people are not good for Indiana. They're not good for America, because they already dismiss a portion of our society. If you are saying a portion of our society is not worth protections in health care, then why are you taking my tax dollars? And what are you using them for? Y'all, it's Pride Month. And I want you all to feel proud of your own existence, no matter what demographic you fall in. I support you. I am going to stand up for you, and I'm going to fight for you. But they are coming after us relentlessly. So we need your help a little bit more. Please consider donating to the Indiana Stonewall Democrats. Click on the link, $5, $10, whatever you can give, to help us protect this community. And that's my rant. Now it's time for a little ad from my sponsors who have been showing up and showing out for me for the last 2 years. Bohm's Unique Boutique. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. Democrats, are you looking for an affordable digital content creation solution? Then look no further than Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. Indiana's own Dana Black is providing many of the communication wraparound services any Democratic organization needs. No matter the size of the budget, Indiana's own and Black Pearl Studios have you covered. Just scan the QR code or visit www.blackpearl-its.com. All right. That is my gay rant, my whole lesbian rant for the day. But you know what? I'm excited because when I get 2 guests from the State House, you know I'm excited. So this is like my 3rd show in a row where I've had 6 amazing State House candidates. Some were incumbents, some were new to the scene. But more importantly, these are the candidates that we should be getting behind and supporting them in every way possible. First up, I got a newbie to the scene, but he got a doctor in front of his name. That means he probably a little smarter than Tyra Keith. I'm just saying he probably is. Y'all give it up for my first candidate running in House District 29, Dr. Chris Hartig. Doc, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dana, thank you. And glad to be on with Robert, too. This is great. I appreciate it.
I love it. And before we get started, and returning for a second visit on Turn Left. I'm hoping that I'm like his special secret weapon, that he comes on the show, then he wins elections. Y'all give it up. Who is the current city councilor in Avon, but is now running for House District 40. Y'all give it up to my man, my friend, Mr. Robert Pope. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you again, Dana. Always wonderful to be around you and to be on this podcast. This is good stuff.
Did I get the city right? Avon, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Technically, it's a town. But
a town. Okay. Same thing. All right, guys. Was there anything in my rant that you wanted to comment on? Doc?
Yeah. As as a parent of an LGBTQ child, I just want to say, hey, love who you love and you belong. I think people need to hear that. And the just because our representatives currently in office, and you named him well, you forgot Jim Banks, who said the only endorsement that matters is Trump.
I didn't forget, but I can only take so much garbage at once.
All right, I hear you. But the Hoosiers, and this just shows our state leaders are not in step with real Hoosier hospitality values. Even research back in 2022 said 78% of Hoosiers believe in laws to protect LGBTQ rights. And, 67% even are pro same-sex marriage. And so it's the majority of people who are allies to this. It's just our representatives are not in step with the people. You mentioned some statistics. I saw recently where the LGBTQ safety grade for all the states, Indiana landed a D minus, unsurprisingly. We did a little better than Florida and South Dakota, if you even want to call that a small win. So we can do better.
I love it. I love it. And Robert, did you want to chime in on anything?
I'd add as well. I'm a parent of a transgender child, and I can tell you it's tough. The only thing you want is you just want to love your kid, and you want them to grow up happy and healthy and safe. And when they are going through difficult times through what they're experiencing with their peers or friends, or well, not friends, but people they interact with, it's tough for a parent. And I struggle with anyone just not being compassionate and empathetic. And at the end of the day, I just feel like that's where everything really should start from. We should just be understanding, empathetic, and more compassionate to our fellow human beings.
I love it. And you know what, gentlemen, I didn't know that either of you had young people who are in the community. And first I want to say thank you, dads. I really do appreciate it. I was a daddy's girl, and my daddy loved me. And I am living proof that if parents just support their children, no matter where they come from, they can do and be anything. Here I am trying to be the most visible, loudest, Black, lesbian, Democrat in a red state that I possibly can be without fear, because I knew my daddy loved me. So I want to just tip my hat to y'all and say thank you for sharing, because I didn't know that about either one of y'all. I didn't. So thank you for that. But Doc, I wanted to ask you a question about the health department's policy and the 14 AGs that are railing against the policy, stating that a surgeon might have to provide transgender surgery. I'm not a doctor. I'm an IT chick. Was I somewhat correct in suggesting that not just anybody's going to be performing transgender surgeries?
Right. Well, I'm actually a doctor of education, but it's the Title IX, where you spoke of Rukita, and that joining in on that lawsuit. That's just a safe, welcoming environment for our children, and that's what our teachers do. We're supposed to be inclusive to that. And, when you talk about, you're talking about physical, there's the mental aspect also. Mm-hmm. And I didn't share this first part, but I had a child who later in life identified as non-binary, they, them, committed suicide 2 years ago. And there's 41% of our LGBTQ community do, attempt to harm themselves. And, 80+% are getting some sort of harassment. And it's just the virtue signaling of, they're very aware. My youngest is very aware that there's a lot of people. It's a minority, but they're vocal, and there are leaders here in our state are strongly against them.
Oh man, that hurts. I don't I know that how I feel when I listen to people who were supposed to represent me are writing policies against me. I can't imagine processing it as a young person. Right. Their brains haven't fully formed, and it can possibly seem like a personal attack against them personally when it may not be, but it'll feel that way. I am deeply, deeply saddened to hear that you lost a child. I've never been a parent, but they say that is the worst thing. And the fact that you were gracious enough to share that with us. Gosh, I'm falling in love with you already, Doc. That's deep. Robert, come help me out. You're the parent here.
I don't know that there's anything to say. That's terrible. And that's not something you wish anyone should have to go through, Chris. I'm incredibly sorry. But I'm glad that you are continuing to fight. I imagine it's a bit of you're trying to honor that memory. So keep it up, and I hope to be there fighting with you.
Wow. Okay. So I imagine. Oh, go ahead, Doc.
Oh, and that's exactly it. Is you find clarity in that. There's that hole, but you grow stronger around it, and you find focus, and a lot of that is what led me, like you said, to do the right thing. And part of that is me running for office at this point.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's start with you then. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
All right. Well, again, I'm Dr. Chris Hartig, running for the House Rep 29 in Noblesville and small part of Fishers. Most of my family lives here in Noblesville. I'm the proud son of a Vietnam vet Marine who taught me, to get the results, you have to put the work in. And my mother gave me this moral compass to do the right thing, especially when it seems difficult. And, my background, about 15 years in mortgage and finance industry and in change leadership. And then I found my calling in higher ed as a business and leadership teacher for WGU Indiana, and just the opportunity to work with single moms working 2 jobs, taking their test 2 a.m. in the morning, hiding in the closet while their kids are asleep.
Wow.
Military students and their spouses, military families, not knowing when they're going to get deployed or stationed elsewhere. And, machinists working 12-hour shifts, trying to advance themselves. And so I get why teachers do this. And, that's a lot of why I run, because we need to change the narrative about our teachers and protect our schools.
Yes. There have been several pieces of legislation, especially this last session, where they were, trying to take away tenure and for opinions. And there's so many pieces of legislation that they're targeting teachers. I think they're doing it on purpose.
It is very intentional and strategic. These are national foundations, and they are strategic. And I had a conversation with Jennifer McCormick a couple weeks ago with teachers, and she's like, this is how it started in Arizona, where they first, because your schools are great, they have to get you to distrust the teachers. And so, and they've been very strategic. All of a sudden teachers are groomers and indoctrinating our kids and all sorts of things. And these are our friends and neighbors. And I'm, as an educator, we teach to better society, and we're creating occupations. We're certainly not doing it for the money or I just wish our teachers, if somebody really wanted to know what was going on in the classroom, talk to your teachers. Mm-hmm. The curriculums are posted online. Sit down, have some conversations instead of assuming all these acronyms and, talking points to just, create anger and distrust. We We need to just have civil conversations.
And even in Hamilton County, I saw that you guys had a teacher hiring fair. And if in Hamilton County, they're struggling to capture teachers, and that's supposed to be, one of the best counties in the state, the highest income per capita, some of the greatest schools. And if they're still struggling to retain, qualified educators, what does that say about what it's like to live in Indiana?
Yeah, and I tell you what, I've knocked on teachers' doors, teachers for 30 plus years, and their daughters are teachers, and a few years into it, and honestly, they're not going to stick around.
And then what happens to our kids when we're not paying them enough? We're not giving them. When you don't pay people enough, you're not going to get the best. You get what you pay for. And I'm not saying teachers aren't great teachers, and some of them sacrifice financial opportunities. I'm not saying that. But when you see teachers leaving, that's a problem. You know what? We're going to have some fun talking to you tonight, Doc. Mr. Robert Pope, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Robert Pope. I born and raised on the west side of Indianapolis. That's right. K through 12 at IPS. I graduated from Northwest High School. Just after graduation, joined the Army. Spent 4 years on active duty, and this was just before September 11th. I was one of the unlucky few who got called to the carpet and was in the invasion of Iraq. After my time there, after my time in service, I came right back home to Indianapolis, moved around, but eventually found my spot, my home in Avon, and where me and my family and our 4 kids between us, hers, mine, and ours situation, live. 2016 scared the bejesus out of me, like many people. And I felt obligated to do something. I'm not one of the, I'm a firm believer in you can't talk smack, or you can't be upset if you're not willing to help, build a solution or be a part of that solution. So I decided to run. I decided to run for office. I knew I was not capable of being in the ring at that level, federal, even state level, or anything like that. So I found the lowest, the smallest level that I could. I ran for town council in 2018. I lost by 59 votes, not that I counted. I ran again for a Democrat in Hendricks County and Avon. 59 votes, losing by 0.85% was unheard of. I ran again the very next year in 2019, and I won by 2-3%. So I won by a good amount. And I've been serving on the town council ever since. I did run again last year, was on your show last year for that race, and I appreciate your support and your help. And I won by a freaking landslide.
Love it.
Almost 11%. So by the way, I was the first Democrat in Avon's history. But 11%, if I were a Republican in a Republican area, winning by 11%, that's a big number. It's a good deal. But for a Democrat in what's historically viewed as a red area, 11% is amazing. I was recruited to leverage that name recognition, that notoriety to try to take it up to the next level, the next step. And I'm running for state house too. The landscape is break the supermajority. Yeah. You can go to my website. I clearly have some policy directions that I'd like to do, but at the end of the day, I have to work with people smarter than me to accomplish those. And at the end of the day, those policies are going to get battled and changed. But at the most important thing, I believe, for the state of Indiana right now is to get some compromise in our state house. And we are 4 seats away from doing that. So I'm hoping to partner with Chris here, and we'll be a couple of those people breaking that change.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because let's talk about this. Indiana's a red state. We know that. I don't think it's a completely red state. I think we just have a turnout problem. As Destiny Wells said in her Secretary of State race, it was a great slogan and I love it. Yes. But you did win in a really red area. Talk about how you won. What were the conversations that you were having with your neighbors in a community? And you don't seem like a kind of guy that would pretend like you're not a Democrat.
Sure. The chief, the foundation that everything built on was a lot of one-to-one conversations. So a lot of conversations at the door. I did my best to just not put myself in front of people like on a stage, but put myself in front of people, meeting them at the farmer's market. We're having a bunch of neighborhood garage sales this week, and I will most definitely be using that again. Just being out in those yard sales. Hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm running for. Get to know me. I think you said this before the show started. Elections are more or less popularity contests. So kind of do your best to be that person that just people go, yeah, I like that person. I think Hoosiers Hoosiers are simple in that nature. They, I believe, care less about political party and more about the values of the person that they might vote for. So if they only see your name, they don't know you from anyone. But if they know, I met that person, that was a good dude, they'll vote for you. And I tried my best to just meet and talk to a lot of people. Hopefully let them get to know me, know that my values start with compassion and empathy, and go from there.
And that's a recipe for success, people. He just gave you the recipe for success. Now, the work that you do in talking to people one-on-one, that's hard work, ain't it?
It's very time-consuming work. It is hard, challenging in that very often I want to argue or I want to rebut a thing that they say, but I try very hard to remember that we've all had our own life journey and path, and they've brought us our own experience. You don't win somebody over with vinegar. How's the saying go? You catch more flies with sugar than vinegar, or honey than vinegar. You try to be compassionate and empathetic to even their point of view or their perspective, and that takes a lot of effort, a lot of discipline, a lot of work, a lot of biting the tongue.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, because that is incredibly important. So, guys, here's a candidate who won in a red area and won by a landslide. So take heed to what he's talking about. Follow the rule, and then reach out to him. Robert's one of those dudes who you can give him a call. I'm not finna get your number out, but he's that kind of guy. Indiana's own Dana Black turned left. We are talking to Dr. Chris Hartig, who is running for House District 29. And we're also talking to my guy, Robert Pope, who is running for House District 40. Guys, these candidates are running for House seats. These House seats to campaign cost money. Please click on the donate link and donate to these candidates. Listen, you don't have to give all your money. Just give some of your money, because they got to buy yard signs. They got to buy door material. They have to buy water for the people who are knocking doors for them. It's all the things. And if we want to help change the state of our state house and end that supermajority, we have to do everything that we can to help the people who are taking time out of their lives, taking time away from their families, to represent us. So either you share them a little of your time, volunteer on their campaign, a little bit of your talent, help them build a website, put some digital ads together, or treasure, donate to their campaign. All right, guys, let's dive into some issues that have been happening at the State House. I'm assuming that you guys have been following, and I'll take a nod of the head at some of the policies that have been happening the last couple of sessions in the State House. Robert, talk to me about some of the most disturbing and maybe some of the more positive things that you've seen come out of that State House.
Cool. Just disturbing. I don't know that we have enough time, Dana. I'm trying to be a good politician here and find the segue to a policy push that I'm leaning on as education. We've talked about education quite a bit.
Love it.
Last year, new law went into place to remove book fees we talked a little bit. I just wanted to scream this while you were going through that, that it feels like what the State House has done is intentional. And I wholeheartedly believe that it is. I'm from IT, 20-ish years in the IT world. To me, I like to say it's a bug, or it's a feature, not a bug. I think this is intended. This bill came out last year to remove book fees from parents, from students, and that sounds awesome. Except the State House didn't properly back fund the loss of those fees, and so school districts across Indiana just took a big hit. I don't know the numbers for across the state, but I do know the numbers for Avon schools, the majority of my district. It cost my school system $631,000 a year just to provide these books. And so what does a school board who is tight purse strings, Indiana is very limited on the tax dollars that we can raise. What is a school district most likely going to do? They are going to lower the quality of the books. So they'll get cheaper books, less expensive books, to make the funds that they actually are receiving fit with what they can buy. They're dumbing down the education that they're providing for our students. I'm lucky. If any of my school board members are watching, ladies, I love you. They're all 5 women. We've got an awesome school board. Ladies, thank you so much. They said, I was at that school board meeting. They said, there's no way. We will not dumb down our curriculum. We want to ensure that our students are highly educated, and you do that through the materials and the teachers. And so we're finding ways to make up that $631,000. Again, that's just for our school system. So,
and that's interesting.
Yes,
and
education's under attack.
Yeah, that was interesting. That's an interesting aspect, because I too was excited about getting rid of the book fees, but it didn't register to me till you said right then they passed that bill in a non-budget year, so they couldn't backfill it because it was a non-budget year. So when you win the election, will that be one of the first pieces of legislation you either author or try to co-author, is how to backfill those book fees?
I would hope so. I'm a firm believer in the highest return on investment that you can make across the board, no matter what the topic is education. I want the best, most prosperous future for all Hoosiers, and we do that by investing in education. I think we can do that. I think we can solve this book fee problem by making sure we invest properly.
Wow. And you would think, and I'm kind of stuck here for a minute, but you would think it seems like a small thing, but that can have a generational impact on our state.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you for that. Okay. What one did you kind of think was okay?
I'm not sure there are many. Actually, to be quite honest, there was nothing that really grabbed my attention that said, hey, this is awesome, we're on the right track. Everything that has come out seems to be there's some positive, and then there's just like this, it sounds on the surface that you're taking book fees away, that's great, but then it's the underlying how the system works that screws this up. So there's nothing really jumped off the page to me that said, hey, this is awesome, this is great news.
I love it. And one of the roles that you guys will have once you get in there is preventing bad bills from going forward, try to make them less bad. Doc, was there anything that was problematic to you, or something that you found decent?
Well, I agree with a lot of what Robert said. Is there's a lot of reasonable bills, and then there's something snuck in there, like taking away collective bargaining from teachers, or attempting that, and then having to, as a super minority, and this is speaking to why we're trying to get those 4 seats, to get someone to be reasonable on the other side, say, hey, this doesn't really apply to this bill, and just a reasonable there. I know you spoke last week about the SB 202 and the tenureship in higher ed, but I wanted to give a good example of, what our universities are doing and why tenureship's important. Like, you take away tenure, it's basically you're giving competitive advantage, you're taking it away from our institutions, our great research institutions here in this state. If you took away tenure, our great engineers from Purdue would just take off. They could go to University of Illinois engineer school, and we would lose our top talent here. And I just read something today. There's a partnership with the Naval Surface Warfare Center with IU, Purdue, and Notre Dame are going to help with defense research. And
like you're talking about like national defense? National defense,
okay. Yeah. And so that partnership. I just read briefly about it. I didn't get a lot of information, literally like an hour before we came on, but I was like, this is why this is so important. And I do want to give some kudos. Is it okay to give some kudos to Todd Young?
Do the best you can, bro.
Okay, because and this is why
he's the less crazy one. He's the less crazy. So
yeah. Well, I have a lot of respect for his bipartisan work on this with the SK Hynix, that 4 billion chip packaging plant, and that's all because that partnership. They stated with the Purdue engineer professors. So, this is bringing economic development right now, highly needed, our higher ed institutions, and we need to protect tenureship.
Yeah. Now, see, I joke, not really though. I joke about, Republicans a lot, but I've watched, Republicans shoot down a really bad Republican introduced bill publicly. And so I joke, but I'm serious, but I joke. There are going to be times when you have no other choice but to work across the aisle. Talk about your leadership style and how you plan, Doc, to be a bridge, right? Because if we're talking about compromise on our side, we still have to be able to listen to what they need. So what does that look like for you? How does that work for you?
Well, I was a former Republican up in the old days of, probably Mitch Daniels and the Mayor Ballard, where it's like, hey, being inclusive is good for everybody. And then once the Tea Party kind of came into this, calling everyone rhinos and the Unity Party, if you try to compromise that, they lost me at that moment. And I think it's important to, like Robert said, talking to individuals, find common ground. There's a lot of us, that have, there's quite a bit we can all agree upon. When we, especially as a Democrat right now, our platform statewide, we are on the side of the voters. We just need to, like you said, the turnout. 81% of Hoosiers are for medicinal marijuana. Mm-hmm. That's a huge number. Mm-hmm. We're the only party that's even able to speak to that. We talked about, the majority being the LGBTQ allies here. And, even in deep red states like Ohio, Kansas, Alabama, they are pro-choice reproduction rights. We're on the right side of things. We just need to get the message out. And, if we can speak to our voters, get the turnout, break down these labels of these DNRs. I have a lot of conversations, and they're tough conversations, but you can engage respectfully and just say, hey, the only home right now for moderates is in the Democrat Party. And some of these old Indiana Republicans still in love with the memory, we just need to, get them to understand, hey, this is what we're about. And there's a lot of common ground if you break down, a lot of these labels.
I love it. Robert?
I've got some experience to speak to now too, which is awesome. You said, how do I start with, talk about, how I choose to lead, especially bipartisan. So Three C's: compassion, communication, and collaboration. I didn't intend that, but it just happened to be three C words. You have to find areas where you agree, compromise where you can. A lot of communication, just trying to boil down to where finding the thing that's important to the other people that are making these votes. And the experience I want to speak to for the last 2 years, I was elected by Republican peers to be my council president. I asked not to be elected council president this year. I'm pretty sure I would have been in that spot again. I asked not to so I could focus on this race. But for 2 years, my Republican peers, to their own county parties' leadership's detriment, elected me to lead them. And I did that purely by, hey, we're at the water's edge. We're trying to govern now. We are here trying to just better our community. And I found that value just true to everyone sitting at the table. And when you build on that, when you work with them, when you compromise, when you collaborate, and you communicate it all, people open up. When you just have good people that are just, I might not agree with where their politics are or where they might want to eventually land, but when you understand and believe and find out that they just care about the community as well, you can find ways that you can do this. You can work together. So for me, I'd lean back on those three is compassion. Just always start with that. Just trying to understand and be empathetic, and then communicate and collaborate. Find areas where you can work together.
You guys have really been hitting on some good points tonight, because even, like I said, even though I am definitely a progressive in the way that I think about things, I also am very pragmatic in how I think about things, right? And you both have hit on something that I find very attractive, and that is, and it was mostly you, Doc, when you said there are a lot of the policies that we are standing for right now. A lot of people who are identifying as Republicans align more with our policy positions and the way that we are trying to actually govern, which is what you said, Robert. And I find that interesting, because I think sometimes even as Democrats, we get ourselves kind of bogged down in their, and I know I'm guilty of it, right? Republican this, Republican that, but I haven't always done what was necessary to understand, well, where are the moderates? Because I guess I'm tired of asking people to do something and I get disappointed every time, right? We had an orange clown, and a whole orange clown, and a woman who was in politics, not perfect, but had been in politics a lifetime and had done a lot of good, and they chose the orange clown. So I get a little frustrated, because it's like, yo, why would you vote for the clown over the person that's going to give you the policies that help to improve your life? And maybe if y'all can maybe speak to, you said they were holding on to the old memories and nostalgia. What was so I wasn't a fan of Ballard. I wasn't a fan of Mitch Daniels. What were those policies that they liked that I obviously didn't like, but they're still seeing but could get them over our way?
Yeah, and that's going to take a lot of conversations, and you're absolutely correct on that. And I struggled to understand the appeal when the Tea Party started taking over. I think that's when things became unreasonable, and it's just this wanting to go back to I don't understand the appeal of going back to the 1700s, where only landowners could vote and all property was handed down to firstborn males. It's good for some people, I guess, but I don't see the appeal, and it has to be based on fear of change. And so, just come at people with, and I have this, advantage, because I can just come up, knock on someone's door. And, the funniest thing is, the first time I got in front of some young young voters. This one girl said, "You're a Democrat? You look like my deadbeat dad."
Wow.
And so, we're just kind of saying, hey, it's okay to, treat everyone equally, and it doesn't harm you. And I think that it's just that there's some sort of fear in there. I don't quite understand it, but when we attack on one end, it just makes the other end, just start digging in more. So like Robert said, try to find some of that common ground.
Love it. Robert?
So your question reminded me of a story. It just happened earlier this year, and it's just interesting. It's kind of crazy. Indiana politics are so weird. I was at the AIM legislative dinner. That's the Advancing Indiana Municipalities.
Time out, Robert. We don't forget the story. I just want you to know that my girlfriend was at that dinner. And she didn't even tell me. She didn't invite me. She knows that anytime somebody brings up that AIM legislative dinner, I am going to rail against her. She didn't even invite me. But go ahead and tell your yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring up that
Nicole,
stuff.
That's you. Go ahead. So tell your story.
They have the four state house leaders up on stage. That's the House and Senate majority and minority leaders. And this was the Senate minority leader, Greg Taylor. He gets up there and he starts talking about, he goes, I'm going to show you guys a little bit that I'm kind of conservative. I think he even said something along the lines of, this is a very conservative position that I'm going to, scream out here. And he goes, I don't understand why the Democrats are the ones who are fighting for this and Republicans are fighting against it. But that conservative belief is that local government control, that our state house seems to have such a problem in a home rule state, a state where we're supposed to say, hey, if we don't have a law on the books, you local community, you figure out a way to solve your own problem within these guardrails. It seems to me that every single time Indianapolis decides or finds a way to solve some of their own problems, the very next session, the state house has a number of bills to stomp on that. And so it leads back to what both you and Chris said, that it just conservative, that's a conservative ideology. How is it that Hoosiers across the state who would say that they find themselves conservative, I want local government control, not big government control, aren't looking at the party that is stopping local government control and saying, hang on, maybe these parties are different than what I grew up, the nostalgia or whatever it may be, that grew up understanding the direction, the policy that these parties are. Maybe I'm finding myself to be a Democrat.
Wow.
So Greg, if you're watching, man, as a shout out to you, I hope I didn't put you on the spot, but you were spot on. We've had a conversation about it. He and I both wholeheartedly agree. My state house has screwed up some of the things that we've tried to do here in Avon and tied our hands. They tie the hands across the state from time to time. And it just seems backwards to me. Just seems backwards.
It is backwards. And it speaks to more about them wanting to have power and control versus allowing people to govern, which is what you talked about. Governing is not easy.
Not
yeah, you want to govern. All right, guys. Now, we talked about education quite a bit, and as we should. Our gubernatorial candidate is, the former superintendent of education. So education is going to be a huge piece of our Democratic platform moving forward. But I want to talk about, we're going to put education to the side for now, and I want you to talk to me about the three other pillars of your campaign and why you're running and what those issues are and what you're talking about when you go and talk to people at the fairs or at their doors. Robert, I'm going to start with you. What are the other three issues that are big for you in this campaign?
So education is probably the most important, but healthcare costs, getting that under control. To be fair, it's a lot of those kitchen table issues, working class rights, workers.
Whoa, stop. Oh, you hitting on something now.
Oh,
You labeled it differently, because I always say collective bargaining, unions. Why did you call it the worker class rights?
oh, Dana, again, I don't know that we have enough time to cover that.
Listen, I own this studio. We got time.
I'm just I'm working class. My parents grew up working class. At the end of the day, we're the 99.9% of the people. So when you say we the people and you aren't targeting 99.9% of them, then clearly we the people are not the target, not the intent. So for me, when someone works 40 hours a week and can't thrive, not, you know what, I'll settle for just live, screw just surviving. That's not enough. This is the most prosperous nation in the most prosperous time of human history. And for someone to work 40 hours a week and not able to live, something is wrong, something is broken. There are many ways I think we could attack that, but whatever ways that we can work towards making sure that workers have time off, good benefits, good pay, quality education, quality training, I'm all for it. I'm all in. The other part, this one sounds so silly, but is just being present. And I kind of talked about that a little bit, but like that wasn't the core campaign idea. My opponent has been in the state house for 17 plus years, and I know the man. I've met him many times. I've had many conversations with him, and I have never seen him out and about shopping at our local stores, going to high school events, sporting events, you name it. He's just seems absent from our community. And Dana, you've met me plenty of times. I'm 6'3", 250 pounds, long red hair. You don't miss me. You can't miss me when you see me out. And I think that's an important trait for an elected official to have, is just being present, just being someone that, you know, hey, I know that person can, if not fix my problem, can at least explain to me why we got here, how we got here. I like those a lot, especially the worker class, because again, with inflation is real. I mean, it happens, and it happens, you know, the working class people don't control the markets, right? But we kind of do. And the fact that we are not benefiting from the profits the way that the super wealthy are, I mean, you can't keep redistributing wealth to the top 1%, top 0.1%, and then not see the suffering of regular everyday people, because the cost of things are going up faster than people's salaries. I know mine is. And I thank you for talking about that, because we're not lazy. We ain't trying to get handouts. We just want our money that we've earned to be able to do things with. We want to be able to go on vacation. Literally, Nick and I went on vacation because her parents have a condo, and we were able to supplement what we normally would have spent and be able to enjoy and have a really good time, because vacations are expensive, right? Thank you. Because if I can boil it down to one phrase, what happened to fair pay for fair work? Absolutely.
Doc, you know, again, we talked about education. What are some of the other pillars of your campaign?
So there's, you know, number one has to be break the supermajority. And, you know, we need some civility and just some common sense in step with the people here in the state. And, you know, to narrow it down, just personal freedoms, you know, when we're talking reproduction autonomy, LGBTQ rights, protecting our public schools went into that. A couple of things that only Democrats are able to talk about. You know, I'm a gun owner, pro Second Amendment, but I believe in safe storage, unsecured firearms for minors. You know, that there are things we can do to save lives.
And while we're on the gun thing, just real quick before you get to your next one, how did you like the constitutional carry bill law that came through?
Constitutional carry, I say permitless carry. Obviously, every law enforcement agency said this is not a good idea, and we've seen what happened in other states. And now we're top 15 in,
gun violence,
gun violence and road rage incidents. Everything, it's, and especially, I was a parent when, in 2018, where there was a shooting in Noblesville schools, and my kids were all part of that. I've met with those seventh graders back then. They're 19-year-olds now. They're voters, and they're saying, "Why didn't you ever do anything?" They were sharing stories about how they were hugging each other, literally saying, "We're all going to die." They're forever changed, and there are some common sense things where I'm more about saving lives than saving feelings. When it comes to that.
I like that. Saving lives over saving feelings. All right. I know you had one other point and I interrupted you.
Yeah. Well, I have tons of points. Another thing which is important to our seniors are property taxes. And, as our assessed values are going up, want to give them the dignity to stay in their homes. Once you get on a fixed income, and, like you said, things are getting more expensive. When they're on a fixed income, and your assessed value goes up, at some point you are going to benefit from that, but give them the dignity to stay in their homes. And so, we need to have these discussions about maybe capping it at retirement or a certain age, or additional exemptions for these seniors so they can stay in their homes.
I love it. You guys, you make me happy and you make me proud to know that I have some level-headed common sense, because common sense ain't so common. Common sense candidates who, and if I may say it so bluntly, who speak the language. I know that I can put you in a tough room, in a tough crowd of people where I may not be welcomed or listened to, and they're going to hear you. And I really do appreciate the willingness to share hard stuff, but also talk about, we in this together. We trying to improve lives for everybody. I love that. And I hope y'all understand that is so important. It's just as important as someone like me who's railing against, I don't know, African-American poverty or whatever it is. Like, everything has value. And we need all of those voices in our state house. And I love what you guys are talking about today. Unfortunately, that hour gone, bro. And I know when you're having a great conversation. So, Doc, tell the people where they can find you.
Oh, absolutely. So online, drchrisforindiana.com. Friend me on Facebook, Dr. Chris Hartig for Indiana. I still run my Facebook. I comment on there. So, and keep, here's what the activities where I'm about. If you want to catch an event, the Noblesville Democrat Committee on Wednesday, the 19th at 7 p.m. We're having a great friend, Dr. Valerie McCrae is going to be there. And so we're going to, have some discussions. She's mental health expert. We're going to dig into, medicinal marijuana too. And this is at the Noblesville Community Center. So again, the 19th at 7 p.m.
I love it. Robert, tell the people where they can find you. Pope4Indiana.com
can get you to all our socials. And of course, policy, ways to contact, ways to ask a question. And now's the time. As Dana said early on, I cannot tell you how expensive. I can tell you how expensive of running a campaign is. I can't tell you how imperative it is that we raise money to run these campaigns. It's overcoming a red state. It takes name recognition. It takes advertising. It takes communicating to people, and all of that costs money. please consider donating in ActBlue/Pope for Indiana as well. Thank you again, Dana. Appreciate you.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with the people. And you know what? I know it's June and people are like, oh, the campaign. No, the elections are so way off. No, this is when the dirty work gets done. All that work that Robert talked about at the beginning of the show, this is when that work gets done. So find a way to support these candidates. Don't go anywhere just yet, guys. So check this out, y'all. The deadline for Hoosier Women Forward is coming up on June 18th, I do believe. So I'm going to run that ad as I normally have between now and then. But I want you guys to consider all the things that these young men talked about today. They talked about inclusivity. Women in Indiana make up over 50%. We're like 51% of the population in the state of Indiana, but we are only 20% of our elected officials. Now, this program is not a candidate training program. It is a leadership program. And leadership can look like anything in a lot of different ways. So if you haven't done so, please pay attention to the ad, scan the QR code in the ad, and become a member of this growing, super strong sorority of women in all areas of the state. Our executive director is a Hoosier Women Forward grad. We have elected officials in the State House who are Hoosier Women Forward grads. We have party leaders up and down the state who are Hoosier Women Forward graduates and alums. So please, if you have even if you're not interested in running for office, right? But the leadership and the community that we build, because power in numbers is, supporting women who do want to run with the resources that you have and the gifts that you have. So get involved with this. And also, guys, I know you out campaigning and you need a public speaker. I'm just saying, holla at Indiana's own Dana Black. Democratic Women of Indiana. Hoosier Women Forward Class 7 application period opens May 7th, 2024.
Hoosier Women Forward is changing the future of Indiana. In a state where half the population is women, only 27% of our elected state house officials are women. That's why we're empowering women to take the lead, run, and win.
This program not only equips women with the skills to be leaders in our communities, it builds a strong network and sisterhood who continue to inspire one another to grow and lead in boardrooms, corner offices, and elected positions across the state.
Indiana Hoosier Women Forward program is one of the best programs I've ever been a part of. It's really important for the next generation of female leaders to apply to Hoosier Women Forward. The amount of experience and expertise that we've been able to have access to has been life-changing.
I am so proud to be a member of Hoosier Women Forward's 6th class of leaders who are changing the political landscape of our state.
What this organization means to me is that I have a lifetime network of hardworking, determined, fierce women in Hoosier Democratic politics that will always have my back.
Being a part of Hoosier Women Forward has been amazing for the last several years. As a former candidate for the Indiana State House, the policy knowledge, the personal connections, and really just the sisterhood of women in Democratic politics has meant so much to me.
I really have enjoyed the Hoosier Women Forward program for a lot of different reasons, but the biggest reason for me was really that personal woman empowerment. Something that I've really liked about being a part of this class and being a part of the Hoosier Women Forward network and group is that, one, I get to be surrounded by passionate women who are committed to making our state a better state for everyone.
I would encourage any woman, any Hoosier woman, to apply for Hoosier Women Forward because you're going to be inspired and you're going to have a group of sisters to always encourage you and help you along the way.
To apply, visit our website, www.hoosierwomenforward.org/apply. Application period closes June 18th, 2024. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black. Listen, what does that tell you? I'm bringing you all the different types of tools that you need to help your campaign. And of course, y'all know I work for ActBlue, right? I wake up in the morning trying to figure out how I can elect more Democrats. I go to sleep at night thinking about how I can elect more Democrats with the skills and the tools that I have. Right? I'm not asking anybody to be me. I'm not asking anybody to do what I do. I'm asking you to do what you do. Because this election at this time in 2024, I know you've heard it your whole life. This is the most important election of our lifetime, but it really is. It's either we stand up for democracy or you are willing to throw it all away and let somebody else dictate what you can and what you can't do. Think about it. In the Soviet Union, in Russia, I guess it's not the Soviet Union anymore. In Russia, you cannot speak out against the government without fear of losing your life. You can't even be a journalist working for another, because journalists are supposed to be safe. They're supposed to have like press passes on. They're supposed to be safe. You can be incarcerated. In China, they will incarcerate you. And women, I know some of the policies that they've been writing that have been restrictive in our ability to control our own bodies. It will only get worse. It will only get worse if we continue to let these people dominate our country and our state. It will only get worse from our rainbow warriors if we do not stand up and implore our fellow citizens to become more involved. So don't sit it out. Don't waste any time. Get involved, find some people, find the issue that matters to you, and then use your skills to amplify and find the candidate that speaks to your issues and policies and how they may be able to help you when they win their election. And with your help, they'll be able to do that. All right, this was a great show. I love talking about policy and state house, and I love Democratic candidates, and I love everything about the state of Indiana other than the policies, right? So we got more candidates coming on. Thank you for letting me enjoy my week off. I really had a good time, but we're back. We're going to push through. I will be out for a couple of Thursdays because I have some trips scheduled with Act Blue. But trust, no, and believe, I'm going to bring you as many candidates as I possibly can. And if you need anything from me, scan the QR code. All right, I will holler at y'all next time. Peace.
Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.